What is up, everybody? Welcome on into the season finale of the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins. I'm Aslan Hudjavandi, joined by Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang. They do great work on the Jeff Cameron Show, Mondays through Fridays, plus a pregame show on Saturdays. We'll talk about that maybe here in a little bit. But we're here to talk real quickly about Cummins. Give them a follow over on their Instagram page, Cummins Lifestyle. It's all one word. Uncle Rick deserves a portable generator this holiday season. Auntie Linda deserves a portable power station this holiday season. They're going to love it. Trust me. Check them out. Cummins Lifestyle, all one word. Also check out Cummins.com. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. We're gathered here, obviously, for the Warchant Report, talking about the Florida game, gentlemen. Let's get right to it, shall we? Florida State hosting Florida. Season finale for the Noles. Will not be going bowling this season, which obviously we saw that coming about 2 months ago, but we didn't see it coming 3 months ago. Second largest home underdog against the Gators in, 20-something years, gentlemen. I think 2008 was like 16 and a half maybe, which eclipsed this one. I want to ask you this, Tom. A famous coach once said half the teams lost today around the country, which is a truism. The late, great Bobby Bowden. One team's going to walk off the victor. One team's going to walk off Saturday night losing the game. But can both teams walk off the field thinking they've got the quarterback that's going to lead them to great success in the future?
Well, first of all, in 2008, I think you were there. I know we all were watching if we weren't physically there. I still have trench foot from that game. That was I believe SportsCenter used the Tebow clip of him with the FSU paint on in their little HD montage for about 3-4 years. Yeah. Only the penitent man will pass. Florida State can feel better about its situation at quarterback after this game. I don't know that they will feel like Luke is destined to be a star in his second year on campus, but you saw signs of growth in his 3-touchdown performance against Charleston Southern, and that growth is the internal clock. It started to slow down a little bit more for Luke, but this is a far greater challenge from Florida defensively. That defensive front is going to be in the backfield often. So can the internal clock speed up a little bit for him to get rid of the ball? That would actually indicate, it's like inversely related here, that the game has slowed down for Luke and he has a better sense of what's going on in his head. And that, to me, is the number one thing for him to have a chance on Saturday night. I would classify it as unlikely that he turns in a performance where Florida State fans say, that's the guy. We don't need to go to the portal for somebody else. It is possible. We do know, and we have seen, that the skill set is such that he was a blue-chip quarterback. The rocket for an arm, the ability to break the pocket. He's tough to bring down, the speed in the open field. There's a lot to work with there. It might be too much too soon, probably is, but there is a fighting chance after the performance against Charleston Southern where confidence was built.
Jeff, it's been tough, I feel like, to talk about the performance of the quarterback, the team after the Charleston Southern game just because of that opponent. But I don't want to yuck the yum, as the kids say, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that feel like Charleston Southern gave them some kind of prism to look through in terms of, all right, well, if we get some pretty good offensive linemen to give this kid some time and maybe some receivers that can get some separation downfield, this kid can do some stuff. I don't know how much of that you think rings true, but I don't know, 11 o'clock Saturday night, is it possible for Florida State fans to think they've got a bona fide start quarterback?
I hope so. I think the fan base obviously could use the shot in the arm, especially if it's yet another loss for Florida State in a season of losses. I do feel bad for both quarterbacks during this entire process. Now, I get it. Look, you come here, you commit to a program, you got to make the best of whatever the situation is. But I doubt very seriously anybody, especially those two young men, thought they'd be in a situation in which they would be sort of competing behind this suspect offensive line, a lack of consistency across the board on offense, no running game to speak of, receivers that drop passes incessantly, and that they would be playing for a 2-win club. They could have never guessed that. So I think it's been fairly untenable for them. It is possible, though, because I do agree with Tom that Krummenhoek has a skill set that I think long-term is exciting to think about. And you saw glimpses of it once things slowed down for a moment for him against Charleston Southern. I think after the long touchdown pass, you saw a different-looking kid. Now, again, it's a big step up in competition. But, he doesn't have to win the game on Saturday night for Florida State fans to feel that way, to answer your question. They could walk out of there, unfortunately, losers yet again. And if he plays well and shows a command of the offense and shows some poise, gets through a couple of reads, makes some plays maybe off platform, has a couple of moments, if you will, in which you see continued growth, Sure, you might then rethink about whether or not this program needs to go out and use the transfer portal again on a quarterback at least. You might just decide to ride with Luke Kromenhoek and try to build all around him, in particular in the trenches. We'll see. He's got a chance to do that. I just want to see a guy who's shown real command now of an offense. And I was talking earlier today with Corey and Ira, and we were kind of talking about how, hey, look, when you watch Lagway play at Florida, it's not always the big numbers. In fact, most of the time it's not big numbers, especially since he's been hurt. But it's 10 of 16. It's a smart throw here or there. It's the third down. Don't do this. Oh, that's smart. Do that. Throw it away. Live to fight another day. Make a play when there's an opportunity. It's little things like that that show some sort of comfort within an offense. And I think that Luke has to show that to the fan base for them to believe that there's any chance that he takes a big step forward as the guy going into next year.
Yeah. It'd be awesome if they could pull off the upset, because not only do you beat your rival, put a good look on the end of this terrible, awful season, but you probably generally feel really good about that quarterback. And you'd be 3-9, Tom, and not 2-10. But I don't know how much that really affects the long-term outlook, because they got to get a lot of things right, Tom? I mean, they got to get it right in the portal. They got to get it right in these coaching searches with the coordinator. Obviously, they really need to get both of it right, I guess. But is there one that sort of rings more urgent than the other when it comes to getting this quote-unquote fix? Are they going to have to get the portal right way more than they did last time around? Or are they going to have to figure out some developers, some recruiters of talent that's going to help bring this thing to stability and to a true program and not a year-to-year roller coaster yo-yo?
Yeah, so it's like what fire is raging the most right now. I think it's talent that you need in front of you to be able to play in a given week. I understand that the pipeline needs to be created and fortified for recruiting classes. I understand you want to bring in more effective coaches who develop kids so you don't have to repeatedly go into the portal every year. And that was the one thing that I don't know has been totally discussed, but the fact that Florida State keeps going into the portal after bringing in a high school class at 15 or 18 or 12 tells you that they don't feel good enough about the kids that they brought in the first place. So that does have to get better. But for me, the number one thing is nailing the portal class. You have to nail that. You could bring in excellent coordinators and excellent position coaches here and not know it because the players aren't good enough. I mean, we see it this year. I think there's some talent, young talent on that offense. I think that quarterback we just discussed is pretty talented, but it's unfair to assess what they are because there just isn't enough talent around them. There isn't enough, when you're looking at the 11 of the unit on offense, when you're looking at, some defensive end play, some secondary play in the defense, it's hard to assess what everybody else is because there's just not enough talent to go around. And in the same way, it would be a limit on what these coaches are that you bring in, what these coordinators are that you bring in if there isn't enough talent to play with. So to me, the number one thing is the portal, but it's yes to all of the above. That's just simply the most correct answer from where I'm sitting. There's a lot of things that got to get better. That's why December is going to be such a critical month.
Yeah, December is going to be so fun. I mean, theoretically here, right, Jeff, because you're going to be on the hunt for anywhere maybe between 30, 50, if you want to be Corey Clark hyperbolic in terms of new guys you're going to maybe bring in through the portal. You need to replace an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, probably more than that as well. But, man, it just feels like there's going to be a lot of buyers in that transfer portal market that you're going to be kind of elbowing and competing with. And then maybe some of your candidates are going to be playing into December, maybe into the playoff. And that can affect getting them and getting onto the right page and hitting this ground running, Jeff. So what is more vital, do you think, as we go through this holiday season and get to the end of the calendar year?
I don't disagree with all of that. I think that they've got to find their fair share of players to flip this thing in the portal. I think they're up against it in a way that they weren't the first time around that Mike went into the portal and exploited the opportunity the way that he should have. He was a guy that was out in front of a trend that a lot of people were suspect of. He understood it as a grand opportunity to flip a program in a hurry, one with an impatient fan base. And I think he had to do it. Somewhere along the way, he wanted to find some balance. That didn't happen. This staff has not done a good job in recruiting the prep ranks. They've got to find balance there too. All of that is true. I'm also really curious to see what the answer to the question of what went wrong, Mike, with your modus operandi. Why did the players stop playing hard for you? Where was the leadership in that locker room? I know that he lost a ton of talent to the NFL, but there's more than just a lack of talent on that field causing these problems. They don't have kids that play real hard. week to week. They don't have kids that play hard for one another. They don't have kids that play hard for him. And I'd like to know what the answer to that question is. We can't know. We'll watch it play out. We'll monitor every one of the days that we get covering this program. And I love the access that we have. It's going to be especially telling as we watch when they come into this offseason through December and then on into the spring to see if there are positive signs and to see if kids are buying in. But boy, it's a tough ask. It's a tough ask to go flip your roster after a 2-10 or 3-9 season. And you're going to ask kids to take a leap of faith with a coach who's not in year 1 or 2, but in year 5. And you're going to say, come in here for your opportunity to play right away. And, oh, by the way, I need you to buy in to one another and buy into this new coaching staff and buy into the fact that we were once great just a year ago. We can be again because of you. Take your chances and come to Florida State. It's a tough ask, but that's what he's going to be tasked with.
Man, the truth can be really uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable the last minute there, Jeff, but it was nothing short of the absolute truth. The Jeff Cameron Show goes on from 1 to 4 o'clock Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and they're going to be hooking you up with a pregame show on Saturday in the studio at 9 o'clock sharp as you get ready for the Florida State-Florida game, the Sunshine Showdown, rivalry, whatever we're calling it these days. And don't forget, meet and greet going on over at Hotel Indigo from 4 to 6 o'clock on game day as well if you don't want to wait until Saturday evening to hang out with Jeff Cameron, Tom Lang, Corey Clark, other luminaries from the Warchant.com brand and umbrella. Head over to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill Friday. Now, Jeff, I don't know if Corey told you this, but Corey made an executive decision on Wake Up Warchant, the growing podcast, whatever we call it, that he's gonna show up at 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock, a little too early for our guy. Okay. He'll be there starting at 6.
Okay. Well, I'll try to hold it down for everybody in the interim. I'll get there at 5 since that's what we normally promote.
Okay. That's how Jeff rolls. Jeff's got fidelity, integrity.
I'll be there, baby.
Check that all out. We got much more to talk about here on the Warchant Report powered by Cummins, namely the opponent, the Florida Gators. Our own Matt LaSerre going to break things down on the other side of the ball right after this. Again, here on the Warchant Report powered by Cummins. Readying for a rebuild? Whether it's one of the top brands in college athletics or your adventurous spirit, we all need a recharge from time to time. So trust Cummins, the brand that's been a global power leader for over 100 years. Featuring the Onin line of portable power generators and power stations, tackle any project in your own climb to the top. Follow Cummins Lifestyle on Instagram to see the latest builds from the Cummins team and to get inspiration for your next outing. And get your questions into the Renegade Express mailbag. Be the one that's generating discussion to earn entry into the December grand prize drawing for a portable generator or power station from Cummins. Cummins Lifestyle on Instagram. Give it a follow. Welcome back. It is the Warchant Report powered by Cummins. Cummins Lifestyle. Give it a follow. It's on their Instagram. You can see all the awesome things you can do with the Onin line of products, which include those portable generators, those portable power stations. Really, it's incredible. Get a portable power station. You'll be the belle of the ball. You'll be the coolest dad, coolest soccer mom, hooking it up. Bring a space heater in these cold months. But you can bring it out in the summer. Bring a fan. Keep all the fans excited when you're watching your youth sports. The gift for everybody that already has everything is what I think the Cummins line, the Onin line of products gives you. Check them out. Cummins Lifestyle, all one word on the Instagram. Don't forget, pregame show, 9 a.m. studio. Jeff Cameron, Tom Lang, getting you ready for the big game. We're going to try to call it that, I guess. Then we'll have the live meet and greet over at Hotel Indigo, 4 to 6 o'clock as we get ready for a 7 o'clock kickoff. I think the 8th night game for Florida State, if you don't include the Ireland game, which was kind of localish, late-ish. 14 and a half last time I saw it. It's going to be on ESPN2, 7 p.m. kickoff. And the Noles are up against it. But maybe there's some hope. Let's see just how truly good the Florida Gators can be. Matt LaSerre with Zach Abelverdi of the On3 Network breaking down the Gators.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We're here with Zachary Abelverdi from Gators Online, the On3 UF site. To start getting into the team, obviously the biggest headline has been DJ Lagway, the 5-star freshman who's really turned everything around from on the field to the recruiting trail as well. What have you kind of seen from him just as him improvement throughout the year?
Napier has said it all year, and I think it's true. I do think he benefited from having a 6-year senior quarterback ahead of him all of spring, all offseason, and for the first part of this year, just for him to kind of learn the ropes and see how things were supposed to go. That doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't have had the success that he's having now if he would have been the guy from day one and went through spring and all fall as QB1. I just think it helped for him to sit back and learn because he's further ahead, honestly, than a guy that has as little experience as he does should be at this stage. And some of the plays that he's made, his ability to throw the deep ball, and I think more recently showing that he can fight through some adversity with the hamstring injury, basically took away his running ability and still lit LSU up. And he doesn't just raise the level of play for the receivers or the entire offense or even just the defense. I think he does it for the whole team.
Yeah, and then going into also the running game, Montrell Johnson was out for a few games, and he's kind of back full go now. But you also had a freshman behind him doing well, and the offensive line has really been probably one of the brightest spots of this UF team outside of DJ Lagway. So what have you kind of seen there as well?
You know, having him go out could have been a devastating blow to most teams. But because the Gators' depth at running back is so strong, even with the departure of Trevor Etienne, you've seen Jaden Baugh kind of step to the forefront and show that he's, you know, kind of the future of that running back position. And then you got Jacoby Jackson, who's probably one of the surprises of the season, their JUCO transfer, who really didn't do anything last year and redshirted. He's been very impressive carrying the ball as well. And they've been kind of the 1-2 punch that Florida leaned on until they got Montrell Johnson back last week against Ole Miss. And then he had a 100-yard game. So Florida's run game really hasn't missed a beat.
Last thing with the offense, obviously the wide receiving core. Elijah Badger's a guy I loved when he came out of the portal. Was actually a guy I really wanted Florida State to go after. He's kind of taken over with Eugene Wilson gone, and then who else is there?
Yeah, Shamir DK as well. He, between him and Elijah Badger, both senior transfers that they went and got out of the portal. DK certainly not as highly regarded as Badger was, but has been just as valuable and important to their offense and to their passing game.
And then turning page over to the defense, I think the biggest thing for UF has been the guys up front, the defensive line. The secondary seems, as you were saying, there's still some injury questions there also. Where do you think Florida State maybe could exploit on the UF defense, and then what should we be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Florida is still down so many starters in the secondary, you know, that's got to be something that they try to take shots at, and I know that, you know, Florida State has had its struggles. They do have a, you know, quarterback it seems like they've settled on, and if he can make some plays in the passing game, I think that's where you can attack them, because to be honest, in the front seven, they've been playing really well along the defensive line at their edge positions. They've got some linebackers playing well too. They haven't had Pup Howard the last two games at inside linebacker. He could be back this week. But, you know, the secondary, though, they've literally lost their top player to injury at every single position except free safety, where they've got Jordan Castell. So they're down to some third and fourth string players at some spots. Credit to those guys because they've been playing well. But if I'm Florida State, I'm definitely trying to make some plays in the passing game, and also try to get Florida to ease up a little bit in that front seven, because they've been coming after the quarterback a lot the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Zach, for coming on. Again, Gators Online. If you want to know more about UF, go more deep dive into this game from their point of view. He's got depth charts, everything you can name over there on Gators Online. Go check it out. Thank you, man, for coming on.
Thanks to Matt, and thanks to Zach. All right, Jeff, so much the way you felt going to the Miami game, like you've been robbed, like you were robbed of this game, this opportunity, this moment that you look forward to as a fan. I have sort of found myself in that same lane of resignation, and it probably shouldn't. It's not as much of an uphill climb against the Gators probably as it was Miami, but I'm just so morose and downtrodden right now, Jeff. I don't want to say give me hope, but when you're thinking about an upset to happen and you're looking at this Gators team, you got 5 losses. They're not perfect by any stretch. What are some of the things that maybe we're not thinking of when we look at this game on the surface? Because a lot of people, I think, are bracing for possibly a mild embarrassment on Saturday night.
You can move the ball against Florida. This has not been an elite defense at all, and they give up a ton of yards. They've gotten the good fortune, I think, in the red zone several times the last couple of weeks of getting turnovers. If you don't do that, you might have a chance to make this a bit of a game. The other thing I'd say is at home at night, I don't know. We'll see if this team shows up the way that they should in a rivalry game, the way that they should, quite frankly, every Saturday. They haven't always done that, but hopefully you would think Florida across the other sideline there would motivate you at home at night. Fan base getting loud. All of a sudden, it's midway through the second quarter, and we got a one-score game, and Lagway's not started on the road in a big game. So here you go. Now maybe, just maybe, he starts to feel the pressure of that. Maybe, just maybe, this team begins to believe a little bit. There's a reason, obviously, that Florida State is a 14.5-point underdog. They're not very good. They haven't played very well at all. Florida's just pulled off 2 upsets. You could understand why Florida would come into this game confident, but the longer this game goes on and remains close at home at night in Tallahassee, Florida, the more Florida State would believe they have a chance to win the game. After all, this is not some sort of explosive offense that's dialing up 40 to 50 points every week the way that Miami was when Florida State traveled down there. They can be in this game so long as they play with heart and they get some stops in the run game and put DJ Lagway in uncomfortable positions on 3rd and long. Lagway with that hamstring is not the same player he was when he was able to escape pressure on those 3rd and long situations. So he's going to have to throw from the pocket. Maybe, just maybe, you force some mistakes there and give yourself a chance into the second half. Look, it's hard to predict a path for Florida State to win the game given how poorly they've played, how inconsistent they've been across the board. But getting to the second half and having this be a close game and letting that crowd put some game pressure on Florida is probably the fastest way to surprise everyone and be there with a chance to win it in the 4th.
Yeah. What are some of the things that has to happen, Tom, for us to be in our group chats, everybody across the country, across the world at halftime, talking to our buddies and be like, man, like, we're in this. We actually have a shot.
Yeah, I'm like you, Aslan. This is the week for me that has a little bit of extra juice to it. And so I'd like those phone messages to be lighting up, because it's close and you're hearing, he's back. I haven't heard from him since September, but he's back and engaged in this game. I do want to see that. I'll give you a Santa Claus stat. Everybody be an adult here. Sack differential. That's the stat here. Florida State has allowed 41 this season. Florida only 16. That's something that has to look different on the box score final report that we get when the game's over. It has to be closer. This is what Jeff was talking about. Get in 3rd and long and get off the field. Unfortunately for Adam Fuller, before he departed, he joined Harlan Barnett and Charles Kelly with having his last name attached to 3rd end. So for Randy Shannon in this instance, whatever you scheme up, don't make it complicated. Pressure the passer.
Don't worry about that, Tom.
Jeff, I mean, my God, there's been 3rd and 19s that look like they're 3rd and 2s this season. So if you get in that opportunity, register something that Florida doesn't give up a ton, which is sacks on the quarterback. They've given up 16 this year against Florida State's 41. So FSU has to be much better at that, meaning Kromenhoek has to get rid of the ball. And then, of course, on the other side, Florida State has to get Florida off the field in those moments. That is where it starts. The only way you get to 3rd and passing situations is if you do decide to come up and stop the run. Use Florida's model for upsets against Florida. These were 2 home games that were close and close the whole way through. It never was comfortable for the opponent, and Florida made enough plays down the stretch to beat both opponents. And in some circumstances, the opponent short-circuited itself. LSU had the ball the entire game 2 weeks ago, and then Lane Kiffin did what Lane Kiffin typically does, which is inexplicably comes up short in moments like this. Allow Florida to be that, almost like an NFL game. Let the other team beat itself by not making critical mistakes. And one of those critical mistakes that the Florida State has made all season is being 3rd and passing, and it looked like pitch and catch, and the drive continues for the opponent. They got to get better there.
Yeah, looking at these things, conventional stats, the Gators 103rd in the country in total defense, allowing over 400 yards per game. They're 90th in 3rd down conversion percentage. So maybe there's some of the things they can hang around with. And then again, I'm sure there's a lot of guys, at least there's got half a dozen guys that probably thought they were going to be millionaires this time next year. And a lot of them are on the defensive side of the ball, to your point, I guess, Tom, so they can help create some situations and negative plays that gives Florida State some life in this game. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We got to make our picks. That's what you're here for. We're going to do that right after this. Back on the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins.
Readying for a rebuild?
Whether it's one of the top brands in college athletics or your adventurous spirit, we all need a recharge from time to time. So trust Cummins, the brand that's been a global power leader for over 100 years. Featuring the Onin line of portable power generators and power stations, tackle any project in your own climb to the top. Follow Cummins Lifestyle on Instagram to see the latest builds from the Cummins team and to get inspiration for your next outing. And get your questions into the Renegade Express mailbag. Be the one that's generating discussion to earn entry into the December grand prize drawing for a portable generator or power station from Cummins. Cummins Lifestyle on Instagram. Give it a follow. Final segment, final episode of the 2024 edition of the Warchant Report powered by Cummins. They're not going anywhere. They've been a global power leader for over 100 years. Check them out over on Instagram, Cummins Lifestyle. It's all one word. Give them a follow. It would mean the world to me. That's all I want for Christmas, everybody. And an upset win, obviously, on Saturday. But reasonable expectations, the key to life, somebody once told me. Don't forget, meet and greet over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, everybody. 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Some may say 6 o'clock, but darn it, that graphic on your screen right now says 5 p.m. and it has Jeff Cameron's face on it. So he's going to be there 5 p.m. If Corey wants to show up 6 o'clock, be Axl Rose. That's his prerogative. But come hang out at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Always a great time. You can hang out at Hotel Indigo on game day from 4 to 6 o'clock. Always a good time. Cash bar, food on hand, great meetup spot. It's right there in the shadow of Doak Campbell Stadium. You can't miss it. It's in College Town Hotel Indigo. And the pregame show going down 9 o'clock. That's also going to be on some of the podcast feeds that we have on Warchant. So if you can't watch it live, you can listen to it on your way into the stadium. Who else has you covered the way that warchant.com has? We've got a lot of folks covering the team that are not here on the screen right now. They've got some predictions for the upcoming game against the Florida Gators. Let's see or hear about it. All right. Let's see if we can create some good momentum, some good positive energy here. But I don't know. Anywho, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Doak Campbell Stadium, Florida State, a 14.5-point underdog against the Florida Gators. Stranger things have happened in the sport of college football, especially when it comes to a rivalry game, late season, a crowd that's going to be juiced up. And that's not me pandering to the audience at all. Man, this fan base, whoever goes to the stadium has been the loudest 50,000 Florida State fans I've heard, because every time I watch these games on TV and there's a first down, it's like a piercing scream and cheer. So I'm hoping they're going to show up and show out for this team, Tom Lang. They're going to do all they can, I'm sure, in the stands to help out. Will it matter? What's your score prediction for this?
The fans have been remarkable this year, and that's what makes me all the more sad. They were invested in the North Carolina game before that fell apart too, but let's see if they get a better show Saturday night. I think they will. I think Florida State is going to muck this one. I said it with an M, into a sloppy. Every time they go to commercial break, you kind of hear the announcers go, "We'll be back right here in the third quarter here in Tallahassee." Yeah, that's what you want. You want to hear disinterested analysis because you want this game to live in the teens for as long as possible. And then, obviously I think the race is to 21 or 24 points because Florida State doesn't score 21 and 24 points unless it plays the Charleston Southerns of the world. I think you're going to feel better about this group for a night, but not good enough for an upset. So my final score is going to be Florida 24, Florida State 20. You get a good game.
Jeff, I never want to say I'll take that because I don't want to lose to the Gators, but that sounds probably a little bit more palatable than what I've been thinking of. What are you seeing in the future here for the Florida State Seminoles?
Tom and I are pretty close, and I knew we would be because I don't think this is a great game if you're just looking for aesthetics. I think it's going to be kind of mucked up, as he said, but I still think Florida wins the game. Maybe we make a late score to give the fans some hope that this comeback is on, but I go 24-21 Florida.
Oh, man. I think the fourth quarter, I think that run game of theirs probably starts wearing down Florida State. I do think it'll be competitive for at least three quarters. But, I mean, to your points that we've been making, they're inconsistent, Florida State, and they haven't given me anything to think that somehow everything's going to click, although I'm hoping it will be. So all that said, I'm going to go 31-14 Florida.
Fair enough.
The night after, I don't know, man. Sunday, are we going to wake up? Will we have any announcements that will help salve the wounds that we might have endured the night before. What do you think, Jeff, and then you, Tom, about potential news? Could it be as early as Sunday, or are we not cross our
I don't
fingers?
think it will be this Sunday. I don't. I think that I mean, it's certainly possible, and I'm not pretending to know exactly when the date is. There's nothing to read into this prediction, but no, I don't think we'll hear on Sunday exactly what we want to hear. I think we got to suffer just a little bit longer, because I do think I believe Mike and others when they say that there are some guys that are perhaps in the running for this job that are still playing meaningful football games. And I think if that's the case, you're just not going to hear about them. The only way that you would is if a recruit, remember what those guys sound like when they commit to Florida State? It's been a long time. Maybe one of them would say yes, and then actually you'd find out something because they got a little loose-lipped or something and talk about how excited they were about a coordinator or something along those lines. But, yeah, man, short of the fact that they're not bringing in a bunch of kids right now in the high school ranks, it's hard to know how you're going to hear of this information unless the guy is already available and Mike is ready to make the announcement first thing. But I don't see that happening.
Wednesday's not going to have a lot of good news for us, Tom. So I don't have to wait for longer than that. But I guess maybe that's the tea leaves right now when some of these names that we see are in the cusp of being in a conference championship game and a playoff run, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to the first part of what you were saying, I think you might get an announcement Sunday for the defensive coordinator. Again, unscientific. I think if you were to pick one half of the ball, we know what we're reporting at warchant.com and one particular side of the ball as of early Thanksgiving week, and that would be Brendan Marion has the job unless a head coaching gig, see Tulsa, maybe fits his profile. But that could be something that ties you up for a few days. I feel like Florida State might have a defensive coordinator candidate that they could announce on Sunday. The month of December is going to be a bumpy but fun one because at this point, I think we'll take any change you can get. Any change is good because what we're living now in the moment is pretty rough. And I will say, just in terms of the game picks we just made, the three of us on screen, Aslan, yours is far more logical. 31-14, when you said it, I was like, I think he's right. So the heart may have been talking on the 24-20.
Well, blind squirrel or whatever. So you can be in the know. You won't be in the blind. You won't be in the dark. Subscribe to warchant.com. The $150 deal still going down. It's $1 for a week and then 50% off an annual membership. Sign up for it, even if you're already a member, and then just gift it to somebody. It's the holiday season after all. After giving them the portable generator, of course. Well, no, give them the Warchant account first, then the portable generator. I got to remember who I work for. All right, we're done. That's a wrap for us. Don't forget, Jeff Cameron Show. Always got you covered throughout the week. Pre-game show, 9 a.m. Saturday. Live meet and greet, 4 to 6 o'clock. Post-game show. I haven't even mentioned that. It's our most exploding property right now on the Monopoly board when it comes to Florida State coverage over at warchant.com. The post-game show with Gene Williams and Tom Lang. We used to say 10 to 15 minutes after the game, but now it's like 10 to 15 minutes before the game ends, which is fine. It's getting good results, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, let's hope that it's actually 10 to 15 minutes after the game. Means the game's close. The game's close. That's what we're all rooting for.
There you go. On behalf of everybody here at warchant.com, we wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for watching this edition of the Warchant Report powered by Cummins.